Hello, I wanted to talk to you today about the normal swallowing process and how this works. There are 4 stages that make up the normal swallowing process, and I'm going to explain each of those. I have this little picture to help walk you through the steps. So, we start with the first stage, and this is called the oral prep stage. Food is entered into the mouth right here, and the food is chewed, it's mixed with saliva, and a little soft ball-like structure is formed, which is called a bolus. That is right here. And that's basically all that happens in that first oral prep stage. It is just preparing that bolus to head on to the next stage, which is the second stage, and we call that the oral stage. So during the oral stage, this bolus, it is moved to the back of the throat. It bypasses this little nasal passage right here, and it's just sent to the throat. This is a pretty short and simple step, but it's also very important because this gets the food in the right location. Now we're on to the third step, and this is called the pharyngeal stage. During the pharyngeal stage, the bolus bypasses this little windpipe right here, and it makes its way down into the esophagus. This stage is pretty automatic. The body just kind of does its thing on it, but it's important that this little flap-like structure closes and shuts off this windpipe right here, because if food goes down there, choking can occur. So this little flap-like structure closes down and blocks off the windpipe in order for the food to make its way down into the right location, which is this tube right here, and we call that the esophagus. That brings me to my last point, the esophageal stage. This is when food is now it goes into this esophagus right here, and basically it is just transported down into your stomach. This is like a wave-like motion. It's pretty automatic, and yeah, that is the basic swallowing process.
Hi, my name is Molly Marini, and today I will be analyzing the normal swallow evaluation using technical terms and evaluating the muscles and the cranial nerves that go with it. So to begin, there are 4 phases in the normal swallow. It's going to start with the oral prep phase, move to the oral phase, the pharyngeal phase, and finally the esophageal phase. So we will begin with the first phase, the oral prep phase. And this is all going to take place right here in the oral cavity. And this is when we basically just eat food and it becomes a bolus, which is a round mass of chewed food. And we chew that food and get it ready for a swallow. So we use the muscles right here in the jaw, which include the masseter, the temporalis, and the pterygoids. And then we also use the orculus or oris and the buccinator, which are going to help move the face in the position it needs to be in order to chew that food. So the cranial nerves that are involved in the oral prep phase are going to be the trigeminal nerve, the facial nerve, and the hypoglossal nerve, which is controlled in the tongue. Next, we have the oral stage, and this is when the bolus of food is transported from the front of the mouth and pushed to the back of the throat, which we call the oropharynx. And some of the same muscles that were used in the oral preparatory phase, like the masseter and the temporalis, are also used in this phase, as well as the cranial nerves, the trigeminal, the facial, and the hyoglossus, but we also include the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve and is going to allow us to transport that bolus. It is also important to highlight that the tongue has many important muscles that are used in the second phase, like the styoglossus, the hyoglossus, and the genioglossus. Now we will move to the third phase, which is called the pharyngeal phase. And this phase is a complex process, so there are many cranial nerves that are used in this phase. And it starts with the glossopharyngeal nerve, which is a cranial nerve, and it helps elevate the pharynx. Then we have the 10th cranial nerve, which is the vagus nerve, and that is going to intertwine with most of the pharyngeal muscles, including the palatopharyngeus, the salpingopharyngeus, and all three of the pharyngeal constrictors, which range from superior, medial, inferior. We also have the accessory nerve, which is going to intervene the palaetoglossus muscles. And finally, we have the 12th cranial nerve, which is the hypoglossal muscle located in the tongue, and that is going to support other muscles like the genioglossus, which is a muscle that is located in the tongue and is a fan-like shape. And finally, at the end, we have the muscle, the cryopharyngeus, which is going to restrict and allow the bolus to pass without the person experiencing any aspiration. The fourth and final stage is the esophageal stage, and that is the process of how the food travels from the esophagus down to our stomach. The bolus undergoes what is called peristalsis, which is the rhythm of how food travels from the esophagus, and that is ultimately controlled by the esophageal muscle down here. And then we see the cryopharyngeus also used in this stage, as well as stage 3, and it is located at the top of the esophagus, and it allows the bolus to travel through the esophagus without any aspiration, and hopefully for a successful swallow. The only cranial nerve that is really used in this fourth stage is going to be the vagus nerve, which just provides motor and sensory support. Thank you very much for watching.